Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everybody. How are we all doing today? If you can hear me and I'm audible, just type in a yes into the chat so I know that I'm audible and you can hear me. Just type in a yes into the chat. Fantastic, brilliant, Solomon. Good to have you here today. Before we start, I'd like to know where you're joining us from. So let's know where you're joining from. We are joining from Lagos, Nigeria. We are joining from the UK. Mr. Johnson is joining from Scotland in the UK. Fantastic. Emmanuel from Ghana. And I'm joining you from Alberta in Canada. Okay, Wembley, Ogun State. Brilliant. Let's dive into what we have for today. We'll be going into an aspect in data analytics, which would involve analyzing data we're going to get off the internet. Okay, would understand the impact of taking energy drinks on our blood pressure. How does Red Bull or any other energy drink impact the blood pressure? We're going to get data online, would analyze the data, and we have a presentation to our line manager or the director in our organization. And we want to create a presentation out of our analysis. And that's what I'll be, our session today would center around. I'll walk you through the analysis, would create a presentation, and then I'll show you what it takes to become a data analyst. What you need to learn, what you start with, and how do you move in your journey to becoming a data analyst. Okay, so let's dive into the main meat of our session today. And I'll drive my session using my slides. So please feel free, let's keep the session engaged, ask as many questions as you have, and I'll be very happy to answer all your questions. So like our session, like I mentioned earlier, today the session would center around using data to unveil the impact of energy drinks on the blood pressure. And I'll walk you through, first of all, how to use data to unveil the impact. We'll do the analysis using Excel, and I'll then show you what does it take to become a data analyst, learning both the technical skills and the employability skills, the skills you need to get a job. I'll walk you through that. And finally, I'll introduce you to our upcoming program starting on the 8th of June, next week, Saturday. Share some success stories with you and the amazing discounts we have for you coming up. First of all, who are we and what are we all about at Tenalytics? For those of you joining us for the very first time, Tenalytics is an educational technology company, and the focus for us is on helping as many people of the Black community, both Africans in Africa and Africans in the diaspora, to transition and get into the tech ecosystem. And one of the ways we've been able to do this over the last 4 years is by providing you with cutting-edge, best-in-class training programs across different areas, from data analytics to data science to data engineering to HR analytics and so on and so forth. We've been able to help over 2,000 people over the last 4 years to make that transition from the classroom to getting their very first jobs in the tech ecosystem. And I'll be sharing some insights. For those of you who would also want to make that jump, what do you need to take into consideration? And today's session would center around data analytics, to be more specific. Okay, now I'll lead the session, and myself, of course, I'm a technology expert with close to a decade years of experience cutting across data analytics and management consulting. Over the last 10 years, my major focus has been on helping organizations to make sense of the data that they have so they can take data-driven decisions. And I've worked across the UK and the US as a data science consultant. I've worked as a data analyst with one of the largest energy conglomerates in sub-Saharan Africa. And I've also worked as a data analyst consultant with FITC. And my experience cuts across 5 different sectors, from educational technology to financial services to energy, automobile, and so on and so forth. And over the last 4 years, my focus has shifted from organizations to the individuals. And we've been able to help over 2,000 people trying to make that jump into the tech ecosystem. So how can you also become a data analyst. And that's what I'll be sharing with you today. Now, let's dive into our practical for today. Like I mentioned, we're going to get data available online, and you can all work with me, we'll work together to get this done. Okay, and I want us to keep our session as interactive as possible. So ask as many questions, watch what I'm doing, ask questions, and let's get to interact as we solve this problem together. Okay, now where do we get our data from? Using data to answer questions is also very, very key. And some of the key questions we want to find out, we want to answer includes, does energy drink or taking energy drink, does it impact the blood pressure, and to what extent? That's number one. Number two, do you have a difference in the increase of blood pressure in the male gender and the female gender? Is there a difference, or the increase in blood pressure or the decrease in blood pressure, as the case might be? Are they similar or are they different? We want to answer that as well. And finally, we also want to know, are there specific age groups that get more impacted by taking energy drinks? That's regarding their blood pressure. So these are the three major questions we want to look at today. And for us to do that, we need to first of all get the data. Like I mentioned, the data is available, the data is on the web, and we're going to get our data from kaggle.com/datasets. And I'll share that in the chat so that everybody can follow what I'm doing. And all you have to do is open up your browser, okay? Open up your browser and simply type in Kaggle. I'll drop it in the chat for those who want to do the same. Kaggle, okay, .com/datasets. I'm going to copy this and I'll paste in the chat so we can all work together. We have quite a lot to cover today. In the next 2 hours, the first 1 hour would be with the practical bits of our session today. And the second 1 hour would be broken down into the key skills, technical employability skills that you need to transition into data analytics. And we'll have a Q&A session as well. So for those who want to follow, just click on the link in the chat, kaggle.com/datasets, and it takes you into this particular platform. All right. Now, when you get into Kaggle, for you to download your data sets, you must register. So you might not see that at the beginning, but the moment you click on the download button, it will prompt you to register. So what you want to take note of, if you don't have an account, all you have to do is when you click on download, if you haven't registered, it prompts you to register. You enter your name, password, and all of that to register, and you have access. All right. Now, what do we want? I want to search Red Bull. Okay. I'm just going to go to the search and I'll type Red Bull. Now you have so many different types of data sets depending on what you want to analyze. You have data sets for the health sector, for energy, for automobiles, for aviation, sales, as many as you can imagine. So all you need to do is search for the type of data you're looking for, and you can download them and find them here. If I want to analyze data on education, I can also do that. Just type in education and I'll see different data sets available within that space. But what I want today is the data set on Red Bull. So you do the same, type into the chart, it brings you here. And the very first option that pops up is what we want. You'd see the Red Bull and heart rates. Red Bull and heart rates. Okay, so I'm going to take this. All right, I'll right click, open in a new tab. Open in a new tab. And this shows me the data set and what the data looks like. So you have a data card, you have people who have tried to solve this problem, you'd see the codes and so on and so forth. But I'm not really interested in checking what people have done in the past. I'm interested in getting the data set. So what I want to do is click on this button at the top right that says download. Okay, you'd see the download button, and this is where, if you haven't registered, you'd see that prompt that will require that you log in to download. Okay, I have an account with Kaggle, so I really don't need to do anything. All I need to do at the top right corner is to click on download. And the moment I do that, it will download the data into my downloads folder. All right. And that's how we're going to get our data set for today. That's how we will get the data set for today. So once you click on download, you have access to the data as well. All right. Now that we have the data downloaded, I want to open this up on Excel. We'll use Excel to do our analysis today to answer the 3 questions. Question number 1, does Red Bull have any impact on the blood pressure after taking, before taking, and after taking? Do you have a difference in the rates of increase of the blood pressure between the male gender and the female gender? And we also look at the age groups and the age group that is more impacted than other age groups. So these 3 questions are the questions we'll try to answer today. So I'll go to my downloads and I'll show you that very quickly. And I have my data already downloaded. Okay, so I have my data downloaded. You see that here, the archive 20. So I'm going to extract this. I'll right click on this and I'll click on what? Extract all. Okay, I want to extract the entire content of that folder. Once I click on extract all, I'll see this option that says what? Extract. So I need to see, okay, I have something with a similar name. So I'm just going to change this because it's similar and it's asking if I want to replace. I don't want to replace this. I simply want to extract. So I right click on this again, click on extract all. All right. And then I click on extract. And once you do this, you have your zipped folder, the compressed folder, extracted into a normal folder. And if you open up that folder, you'd see the data sets that we will be working with today, Red Bull. Okay, now the process to getting this is very seamless, very simple. Kaggle.com/datasets. It brings you to Kaggle, type in Red Bull, you'll see this particular data set. Click on download. If you have an account, you will not get any prompt to log in. If you don't have an account, you will have to log in, register, sign up for you to get access to download the data set. Okay, so now that we've downloaded, let's open it up on Excel and see what the data looks like. So I'm going to double click on this and it would open up in Excel. And of course, let me close this. One of the first things I want to do is to ensure that my analysis is done in Excel. Even though this data set has opened up in Excel, it is not an Excel file. It's very important that you note. And how do I know? Very simple. If I go back to my folder, you will see that the Red Bull file under type, let me expand this a little bit. It says Microsoft Excel, separated values file, separated values file. So it is a CSV file, all right? If you don't use an Excel workbook and you do all your analysis using the CSV, you could have some mismatch and some issues and even possibly lose some of your data in the process of your analysis, okay? So the type of your file, the type of your data is also very important before you start carrying out your analysis. Now that I know that it is a CSV file, I know that I have to do one thing, and I have to convert my CSV into an Excel workbook, okay? To an Excel workbook. And it's very simple. I've opened it up already, and this is what I have. How do I convert? Simple. You save and save as an Excel workbook. So I simply go to my file at the top left corner. Okay, I click on what? Save as. Save what? As. And then I select where I want to save. Where do I want to save? I want to save, click on browse. I want to save in my downloads, the same place where I opened up this file. Okay, So I want to save in my downloads. If you haven't selected the file, you can go back, select the file so you know that you have access to it. Okay, so now that I've clicked on Save As, I can see that it is in my downloads, archive 20, which is the same folder where I opened up the CSV. This is a CSV file. Okay, so all I need to do is change my file type. Save as type. What type do I want to save as? I want to save as what? An Excel workbook. Okay, so the moment I click on Excel workbook, I'm good to go. Click on that and click on save. Okay, so by doing this, I have converted my CSV into an Excel workbook. And I can check just to validate. If I go back to that same folder, you'll see that the CSV file is still there. Microsoft Excel, comma, separated values file. That's the CSV. Below that is your what? Your Excel worksheet, which is the preferred file type for you to do all your analysis without losing any part of your data. Okay, now let's start. Before I start, I want us to have a look at what the data looks like. Okay, so let's see what the data looks like, and I'll expand it a bit so we can see this a bit clearer. You have the volunteer column, people that volunteered to do what? To get their blood pressure tested before and after taking Red Bull. You have the sex, which is the gender, the male and female. You have the age group. You have the BP before, the blood pressure before. You have the BP after, the blood pressure after. Okay, the volunteer, the sex, the gender, the age group, the blood pressure before, the blood pressure after. Now, these are the 5 columns that we have, the 5 attributes of our data sets. Our analysis would involve, first of all, let's know and let's find out. Has the blood pressure increased after taking Red Bull? Yes or no? That's the first question. Now we have quite, a lot of data from this particular data set. So I can't possibly scroll up and down to try to figure this out. I need to use a tool that would enable me carry out my analysis seamlessly. Take all this data and summarize very, very fast. Because one of the things you want to take into cognizance as a data analyst is you want to be efficient. You want to do things very fast and also get the right results, meaning that you are effective in carrying that out. So I would simply use a tool in Excel called the pivot table. Okay, I would use a tool called what? The pivot table. Pivots. We'll use a tool called the what? The pivot table. Okay, now let's get into the pivot table and let's try to use that to summarize the data that we have gotten from the web. Okay, so let's go back. And how do I insert a pivot table, or how do I create a pivot table? Very simple. Make sure you are clicked anywhere around your data. Don't click outside the data set. Click anywhere. It could be under the volunteer column, the sex, the age group, the blood pressure, before or after. Click somewhere in between. Then at the top of your Excel tab, your Excel ribbon, click on what? Insert. Click on Insert. What do you want to insert? You want to insert a pivot table. You'd see that at the top left corner, very clear. Okay, and this is where Excel is very intuitive. So you click on Insert, you see Pivot Table. I can click on the drop down under Pivot Table, and I can select either from a table or range or from an external data source. My data is not, is not external. It is within Excel. I have it right here, which is in a table, is in a range form, and I'll simply just click from table/range. Okay, this would select the entire data for me, and Excel would ask, do I want to create my pivot table in a new worksheet or an existing worksheet? New worksheet or existing worksheet? I want in a new worksheet so that every single analysis I do does not interfere with the data that I have on the screen. So I have something that is neat and easy to read and follow. So I simply leave it on new worksheet, which is what you'd have by default, and click on OK. All right. And this opens up into a pivot table for me. The pivot table is blank. You can't see anything on the pivot table until we start to add our fields into the pivot table. Why is the pivot table very important? It is important because it helps us to summarize the entire data that we have. We're going to summarize that data and we can easily see what the data says depending on what we have selected. So when you create a pivot table, we created a pivot table from this data that we have right here. Volunteer, sex, age group, blood pressure before, and the blood pressure after. Okay, so every single column that exists in that particular data set, I'll find them here under my pivot table fields at the right-hand side. So you'd see the volunteer ID, you'd see the sex, the age group, the blood pressure before, and the blood pressure after. So this means I can easily summarize each column depending on what I want. And the very first thing I want to see, I want to look at the blood pressure before and the blood pressure after. Take the entire blood pressure before and give me the average. Take the entire blood pressure after and give me the average. The blood pressure before and the blood pressure after, do you have any difference between the two? Did one increase? Did one decline? Okay, that's simply what I want from this particular first pivot. And how do I do that? At the right-hand side, I have my BP before and the BP after. All I have to do is click on this tick box. I'll click on the BP before, click on the tick box, okay? And then click on the tick box for the BP after. And by doing this, let me maximize it a bit so we can see what I'm doing a bit better. You'd see it shows us the sum. And this is where Excel is also very intelligent. And Excel is simply doing what? Summarizing the data for us. What Excel has done is to go into this particular data that we've used to create the pivot table and sum up all the BP before. 143 plus 163 plus 153, 153, 146. It summed up everything for the BP after as well. Okay, let me see. Some people are having audio issues. I'm not sure it's from my end. I believe I'm very clear and I'm also audible. All right, so now we can see the total blood pressure of all the volunteers before they took Red Bull and the total after they took Red Bull. But remember, we don't want the sum. We want the average, because that will give us a clearer picture. What's the average blood pressure before they took and the average after, not the sum. So I need to change this from sum of BP to the average BP. And how do I do that? Very simple. I right click on any of the values. Okay, so I go to the first value, sum of BP before, right click on it and go to summarize values by. And when you go to summarize values by, it shows you the different aggregations you can carry out from that particular column. You can sum, you can count, average, max, or mean. I want what? The average. Okay, so I click on average. It changes this into the average for me. So the average blood pressure of all the people that participated in this study, the average blood pressure is 156.45. Okay, I go to the blood pressure after, change that to average as well. Right click on it, go to summarize values by, and I change this to what? Average. And this also gives me the average blood pressure after. I don't want all these decimals. All right, so let's take out the decimals and let's leave just the whole numbers. Okay, select the two. I select my blood pressure before. I also select the blood pressure after, select the two together. And then from the home tab on my Excel, I can decrease the decimal, decrease the decimal. you'd see where you have number. And where you see your number, there are two buttons to the right. One is to decrease decimal. The other one is to increase the decimal. What do I want to do? I want to decrease decimal. So I click on decrease decimal until all the decimal places are gone. All right, so now I have my blood pressure before, the average, and I have the average blood pressure after. Now, quick one, I want to hear from you in the chat. Type, did the blood pressure increase after taking Red Bull? Yes or no? Just type in the chat. Did the blood pressure increase after taking Red Bull? Yes or no? Yes or no? Fantastic. The blood pressure increased, obviously, it's very clear. The blood pressure before, the average blood pressure, 156. The average after is 171. Okay, so the blood pressure increased before and after. That's interesting. Remember, we are going to make a presentation on what we have done. And as data analyst, it's very important that I'll introduce you into a little bit of data storytelling. Okay, where you start to tell stories based on the data that you have, especially when giving presentations. So how do we translate all the things we're going to create in Excel? How do we translate it into a PowerPoint presentation? I'll walk you through that, also taking time into consideration. So we can see that there's an increase, and you're all correct for those of you that said yes. But let's create a chart, because it's easier for people to understand when you have a visual representation of the analysis you've done. So we've seen the average BP before, the average BP after, but I want to create a chart so it is visual, and anybody who sees can see that one was like this and the other one went up. Okay, so I go to insert again. Ensure that you click anywhere on this pivot table. Make sure you click within your data. Go to insert one more time, and you see your recommended charts. Click on recommended charts, and Excel will recommend charts that you can use. All right, so I'm going to use the defaults. When I clicked on recommended chart, it showed me the clustered column. I'm not going to change it. I'll use what Excel has recommended. Okay, so I simply click on what? Okay. And when I do that, I'll see my very first chart created on Excel. So I can see a column, the blue colored column, and the orange colored column. And to the right-hand side, I have the legend. The blue is the average before, the orange is the average after. And you can see one is a bit low, the other one is high. So there's an increase between before and after. And we are answering the questions one by one, slow and steady. Okay. Now, one of the first things I want to teach you when it comes to data visualization is less is more. The principle of less is more. I need to write this on my screen so that we are all together. Okay. The principle of what? Less is more. Pardon my handwriting. I'm using my mouse, so my writing might not be too neat. I'll take my pen later. So less is what? More. The principle of less is more simply says that take out anything that is not adding information to your visual. If you create a chart and you have so many elements, you're going to tend to distract your audience. So you want to do what? You want to take out irrelevancies. You want to take out anything that would cause a distraction, and you want to communicate in the clearest form possible. Okay? So using that principle of less is more, all these things at the top, average BP before, average BP after, I don't need them. Okay? So I'd right click on it and I would hide all field buttons. Hide all field buttons on chart. So that takes that out for me. I don't need it, okay? Again, I want to show the absolute number. So when I look at this bar, the column, average BP before, I want to see what's the actual BP. I want to see it on top of the column. So I'll right click on this column and I'll select what? add data labels. Okay, so I can see 156. I'll do the same for the orange, right click, and I'll select what? Add data labels. Okay, so 156, 171. Now that I have my data labels on top, it means that I don't need this y-axis anymore. It becomes redundant. And remember, using the principle of less is more, anything that is redundant, not adding value, take it out. So I click on this and I hit the backspace on my keyboard to take it out. Okay, now that I've taken out the y-axis, it means that these lines are also irrelevant because when the y-axis was there, I would use the lines to trace what number is this, what number is that, but the y-axis is no longer there, meaning that your grid lines are redundant as well. So I click on one of the grid line and I hit the backspace to take it out. Now we can see that our data, our visual is looking a little bit neater and clearer. Okay, we are taking out redundancies, taking out things that don't add value. And the last thing I'll do before we go to the next question is, I want my legend, the average BP before, the average BP after, I want it under my columns, okay? So let it come from the right-hand side, and I want it somewhere below the columns, okay? So I'll right-click on any of the blue or the orange, right-click on any of them, and I'll click on what? Format legend. Format what? Legend. And this takes me here, and all I need to do, you can see the legend position, top, bottom, left, right, top right. I want the bottom. So I'll click on what? Bottom. And this brings this here. Finally, this thing that says total, I don't need the total. Total what? What are you totaling? It makes no sense. So we take it out as well. It's irrelevant, it's redundant. Click on that, hit the backspace to take it out. So now we have a chart that looks like this, very neat and very clean. And it says what? Average BP before, average BP after. Okay, and we can give this chart a title if we want to do that here, or we can do that in PowerPoint. I'm going to do it in PowerPoint, so I'm going to leave it at this for now. Okay, so this is what I have, the very first chart I created. And the reason I was able to create this easily was because I used a tool that exists in Excel called what? The pivot table. Okay, don't mind the fact that I might be moving a little bit fast. For some of you who have never done this before, it's pretty new to you and you're watching what I'm doing. Okay, but at the end of today's session, when you get the recording, you can go back and watch this at your own convenience, at your own pace, and you do exactly the same things I've done today. All right. And of course, in a typical class, you take it a little bit slower and step by step to getting all of this done. So this is the first question. Second question is, I want to break this down a little bit into the male and female. Into what? Male and female. Now, the male gender and the female gender, are there similarities when it comes to the blood pressure before the energy drink and the blood pressure after? Okay, now because the type of analysis I'm doing is pretty similar to the first one I've done, I need to see the BP before, the BP after. I only want to break it down by what? Gender. So I'm simply going to copy what I have. I'll select what I have at the top. I'll select the pivot table I created, and then I'll copy, Control C. So I'm simply copying what I have above. Select and copy, and I'll go down here, somewhere here, and I'll paste, Control V. What have I done? I simply copied what I had at the top, and I pasted it here below. Okay, so it's a duplicate of the very first pivot table I created. Now, the difference is, I want to break this down a little bit further into gender, male and female. And what I'll do is I'll close my format shape. I don't need to format the shape. The reason why I can see format shape is when I right-clicked on my legend and it brought out this format pane. So I close the format pane, all right? And it takes me back into my pivot table fields. I have my BP before, I have my BP after. All I'm going to do is I'll take the sex colon, the gender colon, I'll click and drag it, and I'll drop it under rows. Now, why am I dropping it under rows? I want male to be on one row, I want female to be on another row, and I want to see the BP before and the BP after for male and the female. Okay, so I'll simply go to this sex, which is where I have the gender, click on it and drag, click and drag, and I'll drop it where? Under rows. And the moment I drop it under rows, what do you notice? You'd see the female, you'd see the male, the average BP before, and the average BP after. So I didn't have to create from scratch. I simply copied, pasted, and I added the sex into rows, and it gave me this other new pivot table showing the breakdown between the male and the female. Okay, the male and the female. And I can see clearly that the female average BP before Red Bull is 154, average BP after is 167. Male, the average BP before is 159, the average BP after is what? 174. So they both increased after taking Red Bull. And this is where, as an analyst, you want to dive in a little bit deeper to have some context to the analysis you are doing. So even though both male and female increased, did they increase at the same rate? Did one increase a little bit higher than the other? And that's a good question to ask. Okay, and there are so many ways of doing this. We can create a calculated field in our pivot table. We can do so many things to answer that question, but I'm going to make it very simple for us. And I'll simply come here just after this pivot table, and I'll simply type percentage change. So let's calculate the percentage change between the male and the female. Did they change at the same rate, or did one particular gender have an increased rate or a higher rate than the other? Okay, so the percentage change, before we start writing anything, we simply want to see the BP after, okay, BP after, again, part of my handwriting, the BP after minus the BP before. That's what we want to do. BP after minus BP before. Now, because I want it in percentage, I'm also going to divide it. So when I know the difference between the BP after and the BP before, so maybe 167 minus 154, it gives me a value. I want to go further to divide it by the BP before. Okay, so I can, so that I can change this into a percentage. I can change this into what? A percentage. So I want to see the difference from the BP after minus the BP before divided by the BP before. So this would show me the rates of change. The rate of what? Change. And that's what I want to do. And that's the calculation I'm going to enter right now. The BP after minus the BP before. So I'll take this, I'll subtract it from this, and I'll divide by the BP before. That's simply what we are going to do. So let's do that very quickly. Okay. All right. So equal, I'll start by typing an equal. My average BP before, my average BP after, I'll select that. But because I am working with a pivot table, and this is something you have to take into consideration, because I'm working with a pivot table, it's showing me something called the get pivot data. Okay, and you'd always see this when trying to reference a pivot table, but I don't need all this hassle. I don't need all this get pivot data, average BP and all of that. I don't need all of this. Okay, so I'll just press the escape button on my keyboard to take everything away. And I want to change that so I don't have that get pivot data anymore. And how do I do that? Very simple. make sure you are clicked within that pivot table. All right. At the top, you'd see your pivot table analyze. Click on that. Pivot table analyze. Click on it. Okay. At the left-hand side, you'd see options. Click on the drop down where you have options. And you would see generate get pivot. It is selected. You can see that tick mark that says generate get pivot. I'll deselect it by clicking on it again. Okay, so now if I press the equal and I click on average BP after, it won't generate the get pivot. That's what I've just solved. All right, so I'll go back there. Let's test and see if it has worked. So I'll go back here, I'll press the equal. Okay, and I'll click on this. And you can see now it's showing me the cell reference. It's no longer showing me the get pivot data. And this is what I want. So 167, which is under cell C23 minus the BP before. Okay, so take the BP after minus the BP before. Remember, I want to divide it by what? The BP before. Okay, again, when you're doing calculations like this on Excel, your board mass must come into play. Your brackets, you know, of division and so on and so forth. So I'm going to take my very first BP after minus BP before, I'll put it inside brackets so that my calculation would run. Do the subtraction first of all before you do the division, okay? So I can simply come in here, I put in a bracket to close here, I put in a bracket here. So just wrap it around brackets simply. So BP after minus the BP before divided by the BP before. And once I hit enter, it shows me 0.0857. Okay, and I'm going to convert this into percentage. How do I do that? I'll simply go to the top where you have the percentage style. And I click on percentage style. And it shows me 9%. But I want to see it in decimal. Okay, maybe 1 decimal place. So I go back and I increase decimal by 1 place. So I have 8.6% for the female. I want to apply the same thing to male. I'll simply come to the down right corner where you have this little dot. Click on that and drag it down. And then I have what? 9.5 percentage what? Change. Now I want you to tell me which of the gender has more, does the Red Bull have more impact when it comes to the increase in blood pressure? The male or the female? Type into the chat. The male or the female? Which gender has, you know, does the Red Bull have more impact on the male? Absolutely. So we can see that while both genders had increase in blood pressure, the male had what? A higher rate of increase at 9.5%, which is good to know. Okay, it is good to know. So we can see this. We're going to create a chart that would show us the BP before, the BP after, and all of that, just like we did above. All right, so let's do that very quickly. Okay, you can either click anywhere within your table, your pivot table, or you can select the pivot table, any of the two. I'm just going to click anywhere, and I'll click on Insert, Recommended Charts. Okay, and I'll use the default that Excel would provide, the clustered column again, and I click on OK. And then I have something like this. So similar to what we did above, we are going to have something like this below. Okay, so let me take out this writing. Again, quickly apply the principle of less is more, just like we did above. I'll right-click on all these buttons, right-click on this, and I would say what? Hide all field buttons, hide all field buttons. I want to add my labels on top. So what's the, you know, the BP before and then the BP after for the female, the BP before, the BP after for male. So I'll right-click on the blue, and I would say what? Add data labels. Right-click on the orange, and I'll say add data labels. So now that I have the data labels, 154, 167, from 159 to 174, I don't need the y-axis anymore. And I don't need these lines to trace the numbers because I already have them above my columns. So the principle of less is more applies, and I'll simply take out things that are redundant. So I'll click here, hit the backspace key on my keyboard, that takes it out. Click any of the lines, hit the backspace key, and that takes it out as well. I want to bring my legend below my columns. I don't want it at the right-hand side, okay? Right-click on the legend, click on Format Legend, okay? And select what? Bottom. Simple, simple and short, simple and straight. And I have something like this. Right. So we can see clearly, and you've all alluded to the fact that we can see what has happened. Yes, both genders had increase in the blood pressure before and after. However, the male gender had a higher rate of increase. Now, let's go to the last question, which is also similar, but this time around, we want to see it based on what? The age group. Do we have a particular age group that has, more impact when it comes to taking the energy drinks? So I'm simply going to copy what I have here, okay? Because I don't want to create from scratch again. I'll just select this and I'll copy, Control-C. I'll scroll all the way down somewhere here and I'll paste this, Control-V. Okay, so I've simply duplicated the table I had above. Now I'll close my format shape because I don't need it anymore. I'll close this. I have my pivot table fields. I don't want to break it down by gender. I want to break it down by what? Age group. I don't need the gender. I break it down by age group. I already have the gender above. So what do? I'll take out the gender, the sex from my pivot table field. So you have it here. You can either come here, right-click on it, and just simply select remove sex. Okay, you can right-click and simply click on what? Remove sex. Or you can simply go to your pivot table fields and you click on it and drag it out. If you click on it and drag it out, it takes it out. Or you can right-click on your pivot table and select remove sex. So now that I've removed sex from rows, I'll simply take the age group, drag it and drop it under rows. Simple. And once I do this, I'll see the age groups 30 to 45, 46 to 59, and 60 plus. Just like we saw above for the gender, all the age groups had increase in blood pressure. Okay, 152 to 166, 155 to 171, 163 to 176, right? But I also want to see the magnitude so I can put it into context when giving my presentation. So the same thing I did above, I'll do it below. And rather than doing it from scratch, I can copy what I have here. I can select this, copy, Control-C. I'll come here and I'll paste it, Control-V. And I'll just simply drag this down to also cover 60 plus. Okay, so you can do a lot of copy and paste as long as you are getting the right result. So you don't want to do things from scratch every single time. So I've already done this calculation above. All I needed to do, copy, paste, and simply use the fill handle to fill the one below that wasn't captured initially. Looking at this, what age group or which of the age groups seems to be more impacted by taking energy drinks? Type it into the chat. Which age group seems to be more impacted when it comes to taking energy drinks? Look carefully, precious. Look at the percentage change, and that's where you'd see the age group with a higher impact when it comes to the change in blood pressure. Okay, Abimbola, fantastic. Blessing, Dolapo, 46 to 59. Thank you, Uchena Solomon, fantastic. So you see that the age group 46 to 59 has a 9.9% increase. Okay, so which means that this age group seems to have, a higher rate of increase when it comes to taking energy drinks. Seems very interesting. So what I'm going to do again, I want to create another chart to put it into a visual. All right, and this is the last question, and then we'll start creating our presentations very quickly. So click inside the pivot table. All right, insert as usual, recommended charts. I'll select another clustered column, click on OK. I'll just drag this here. All right, and I'll apply the same principles like I did for the other ones. Apply the same principles. Take out these buttons, right click, hide all field buttons on charts. I'll insert my labels, right click on the blue, add data label, right click on the orange, add data labels. Now my y-axis becomes redundant. Click on that, hit the backspace to take it out. Click on any of the lines, hit the backspace to take it out. I want to put this below. So I'll right click on it again. I'll go to Format Legend, and then I'll go to where? Bottom. Okay, beautiful. So now that we have this, we need to put it in a format that is easy to present. And before we leave Excel, let's just do the same thing, the percentage change. Let's do it for the very first table we created. So moving from 156 to 171, what's the percentage change? So I can come here and select what I've done, copy, Control-C, and I'll paste it here, Control-V. And I can see that the percentage change is what? 9%. There's a 9% increase after taking Red Bull. So this gives us a very good, way to present our data and our findings. So we're going to go into PowerPoint and try to replicate what we've created here so that we can present this in a compelling fashion to whoever will be looking at this and reading our reports. All right, so let's open up PowerPoint. So I'll open up a new file very quickly, a blank presentation. Okay, so I'll open up PowerPoint. I really don't want to do anything too complex. All right, so let me close this. I'll take out this box, click on the box, take it out, click on this and take it out. Now, let's start building. The very first thing we want to show is this chart that we have here that shows there was an increase. And this is me having a presentation tomorrow to show my findings to the head of medical operations or the head of research in our organization. All right. So I'll click on this first chart that I've created. Just click on it at the sides, any of the sides, and copy, Control-C. Copy, Control-C. Okay. I'll go back to my presentation, the blank presentation, and I want to paste it in here. All right. So I'll go to paste at the top left corner, click on the drop down, and I want to paste source to keep source formatting. You can paste in different ways, but you want to keep the formatting. Okay. So keep source formatting. I'm not changing the format. I'm going to leave the format the way it is on Excel. So I'll keep source formatting when pasting. And I'll simply drag this here. Okay, so let's just drag this here to the right-hand side. All right. Now, one other thing you want to take into notice or you want to pay attention to is creating compelling visuals. Data visualization is an art, as it is also a science. You're going to do calculations, analysis, but how you present is also very important. So you want your presentation to look good and visually appealing, communicate what you're trying to show. And I'll introduce you to another concept shortly, all right? But before I introduce you to that concept, now if I click outside, there is no, outline surrounding my chart. I want an outline, okay? So I click back on the outside. I go to Format at the top of my PowerPoint, all right? I go to my Shape Outline, click on Shape Outline, and I select a color. I always prefer to use very faint colors. Let's use this very light shade of gray. So I use a light shade of gray, Now you can see an outline around my chart. Okay, I click on that outline again, and I want to make my chart pop a little bit. Okay, add some spice to it. So I click on format again. I go to shape effects, click on the drop down. I go to shadow, and I want to add a shadow to my chart. And I select the outer shadow center, offset center. You can try different ones. See the one that works for you, the one that you think looks good, and click on that. So now you can see the chart pops out a little bit better. It pops out more, and it looks a little bit better than it was before. Okay? Now, before I go on, remember, I talked about the fact that when you are creating, you want to highlight certain things on your reports. Looking at what you had done on Excel, what do you see? Okay, I want somebody to respond to this question. Okay, I want you to unmute yourself. Tell me what you see from this very first chart. Okay, just tell me what you see. And it is not a trick question. It's simply you just saying what you can see from the first chart we've created. If you want to respond, you can raise your hand, click on the raise hand icon. I'll call you up to speak very quickly. We have about 10 more minutes to wrap up our presentation. So if you want to speak, raise your hand, I'll unmute you. I'll call you up to speak, you'll mute yourself, and just tell us what you see from this chart quickly. Okay. So iPhone, I've asked you to unmute yourself. First, tell us your name, who is iPhone, and then you can go ahead and answer.
Okay, so I'm Ogechi, right? Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, Ogechi, go ahead.
Okay, so what I see here is just a change in the average BP before and the average BP after, which is 9%.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot for that, Ogechi. That was
You're welcome.
absolutely spot on. Okay, thanks for contributing. So Ogechi has told us there was the average BP before, the average BP after, there was an increase by what? 9%. You want to highlight that in your presentation. Okay, and what concept is this called? This is called the concept of anomaly. Write it somewhere. Concept. Okay, concepts of anomaly. Okay, anomaly. We're going to use this a lot. So the concept of anomaly simply is where your data visualization, you want to highlight areas that are of interest, areas that stand out, areas of focus for that particular presentation. Okay, the concept of anomaly. So using this, I want to showcase what I want people to see. So when I present this, one of the first places my audience would go to is that area I've highlighted. So I'm going to insert a shape to represent my 9%. Okay, my 9%. Very quickly, we're going to do that. If I click inside my chart, I want to bring out the inner. So you see that you have the top and you have another inner outline. I'm going to drag the inner outline down a little bit because I want to add a shape. So I want my shape to have space above. Okay, so I just drag it down a little bit and I want to add a shape. So I'll go to insert. I'll go to shapes, add a shape, and my shape would be a what? A circle or oval. I'll click on oval. Once you click on oval, click anywhere on your slide, and then oval would appear. Okay, I'm going to reduce this size. Okay, I'll reduce the size to something like this. Now, I'm not really sure it's a perfect circle. If you want a perfect circle, you want to go to shape formats and you want to use the same height and the same width. So you can simply, once you click on your shape, the circle, you click on shape format. My height, let's say I want 1.3 for the height. I enter 1.3, hit enter. I go to width, I enter 1.3 and I hit enter. So now I know it's a perfect circle. I drag that somewhere here. Okay, I drag that somewhere here. Let's put it here. Let me see if this is, so just, you can move things around, make sure that you have a perfect, alignment at the end of the day. Now I'm going to take out, I want to change the color of this because I want your focus to go straight to this when you open my presentation. So I'll click on shape fill and I'll change it to a red color. Okay, I'll change it to red. It has a blue outline. I don't want the blue outline. If I click outside, you'd see that there is a subtle blue color at the outside. I don't want that, okay? So I'll click on the shape again, go to shape format, go to my outline, and I'll select no outline, no outline. Right. Now it's time for me to simply do a little bit of, create. I just want to be creative a little bit. I think let's increase the size of our circle to 1.4 or 1.5 and 1.5. Let's see. Yeah, it's not too big, so this is fine. Okay. So I'm just simply going to go to insert one more time. I'll go to shapes. And this time around, I want to use this line to connect the number to that circle. Okay, so I'll click on this connector line. I'll go to my circle, just click like this and, bring it down to this number 156. I'll do the same. I'll select that similar shape again, the connector, click on that. I'll come to my circle and I'll connect it to this other number, 171. Okay, outline it like this. So you have it connected. Now I want to insert that 9% that Ogechi told us about. I want to insert it into this red so that anybody who opens this sees what I have here immediately. So again, I click on insert, shapes, and I select what? Text box, just a text box, simple text box. Click on text box, click on your presentation. You have a text box and I'm simply going to type 9%. All right, I type 9%. Select what I've typed, make it bold. Okay, make it bold. And then I'll just drag this into my circle. But now because it is a red colored background and a black font, it is not too obvious. Okay, so it's kind of fading into the red. So I can change the font, select that, and I'll change the font to what? White. So the 9% becomes very clear. Okay, now anybody who opens this sees that, wow, there was a 156, it moved up to 171, and that's a 9% change. But I need to also let my audience know what I want them to take note of, that they can't see from my Excel or the analysis I've carried out. Remember, the people that will look at your presentation are not as technically sound as you are. So you want to make it as easy as possible to a non-technical stakeholder that will be consuming or looking at your reports. So I'll go to my text box again, insert another text box, and I want to put a header. So the moment you see this, it takes your attention to where I want it to go. So I'll type overall blood pressure increased by 9% after consuming Red Bull. Okay, I can make that bold, select everything in there, make it bold, and I can also, create attention to what I've written here by changing the 9% to red as well. So I select my 9%, I go to my fonts and I make it red. Okay, so overall blood pressure increased by 9%. Let me just change this to P because it's a header, capital P, capital I, just because it's a header, that's all, after consuming Red Bull. Okay, and now I want to add a little bit of, context to what people would read when they see this chart. Remember, they're not as technically sound as you are, even though they can see clearly what the chart is communicating. All right, so I'll simply just add another text box, click on the text box, come here, add it somewhere here. Okay, you can increase it something like this, or you can just, whatever suits you better. Come here and I'll type the overall data indicates a significant increase in blood pressure. After consuming Red Bull. Okay, suggesting a notable impact on cardiovascular health. Now, you can then break it down a bit if you want to by saying that before Red Bull, after Red Bull, you can write that before it was 156. The unit for blood pressure is mmHg, millimeter mercury. After is what? 171. 171. And the percentage increase is what? 9%. Okay, so simple and short. Anybody who opens this can see overall blood pressure increased by 9% after consuming Red Bull. The person reads this and sees, wow, interesting. Okay, that's the first one. The second one, I'm going to create my new slide. All right, and I'm just going to duplicate what I have here, so I don't have to create it from scratch again. So I right click and I duplicate my slide. So I have two slides. I'll take out what I have here. Okay, I'll select this, take it out. I don't need this. And I'll go back to my Excel. I'll copy the chart for the gender, male and female. Select that, copy, Control C. Okay, I'll go back to my PowerPoint and I'll paste this here, just like I did. Click on paste, keep source formatting, and I'll apply the same format that I used in the previous one. Okay, so we can bring this here, add a border, click on format, go to shape outline, use a light gray color, right? Add some sort of effect to make it pop out a bit. Go to effect, shadow, and use the one at the middle. Okay. We can add, I think something I forgot to do is to add a title. We can add a title here, but I think for this, it's pretty straightforward, so we don't need a title. But I'm going to add a title to this one. All right. So I also want to show the change, just like I did for the previous one. Okay, so I'll click inside. Let's bring this down a little bit so that when we are inserting our circle, we have spaces to place them. Bring it down a bit, and I think this is fine. Okay, so I'll go to what I had initially and I'll copy this circle. I don't want to create from scratch. So I select the circle, copy, Control C, go to the second slide and paste Control V. Okay, and I want to put this here. But now it's not 9%. Let's go to check what we had. So we have 8.6 for female, and male we have 9.5. So we make that change as well. So for female, it's 8.6. I'll type 8.6. Okay, adjust the font so that it falls within the bubble I had created. And I'll simply just duplicate what I have. Select this, duplicate, Control D to duplicate, Control D. And I'll drag this here to the right-hand side. Okay, just put it somewhere here. Feel free to move things around until you have something that works for you. All right, I'll add my I'll add my connectors again. So I'll go to insert, I'll go to shapes, and I'll add my connectors very quickly. Let's use this. Just connect this from the top right to the bottom. So 154 for the female, and use another connector from here. Okay, connect this. This might be a little bit tricky. Just connect it like that. So now you've connected the two. Okay, I'll just take this up a little bit. So you can see it has moved from what? 154 to 167, 8.6%. Put your connectors here as well, 9.5 for the male, 9.5%. Okay, and I'm also going to add my connectors just to show some, link between the two. So I'll come in here, select my straight line, connect it. So my line is not very straight. If the line is not straight, it's not, and it's not a border. All you need to do, if you don't have a straight line, click on your shape format and make sure that the width of your line is 0. So if I take it to 0, the line becomes straight. So 159, I'm also going to connect this to 174. Okay, so I come here, I can just do this. Take this to the right, take it up a little bit, and move this. Okay, so you take your time, just make things look a bit good, a bit nice. I'm trying to move very fast because of time. So now you've connected the two, and it's time for us to write 1 or 2 things so that anybody who comes here knows exactly what we're trying to show them. So I start from my header again, and I simply type men experienced higher blood pressure increase at what? At 9.5% compared to women at what? 8.6%. Okay, remember we're going to do a presentation. I also want the focus to be on the men. Okay, so I can use a different color for the women since the focus is on the men. So I can change men to what? Red. Okay, change the 9.5, which represents the men, change it to what? Red. And then because I want the focus to be on the men. Remember the concept of anomaly. I'm going to change this circle for the female. I'll change it to a different color. So instead of using the red, I can use a different color to maybe let's use a dark blue color. Okay, we can use a dark blue color, for example. Now, it doesn't have to be this way, but again, you want the focus to be on something, and that thing you want the focus to be on is where you want to highlight. You can highlight by using colors, you can highlight by using shapes, and so many other different ways to highlight the focus of your presentation. So I'll come in here and I can simply type, I would say both genders experienced an increase in blood pressure, okay, with males showing a slightly higher increase compared to females. Okay, compared to females. Simple. I think we can leave it at this. We don't need to. I would have loved to add more to just say the blood pressure moved from this to this and so on, but let's just leave it at this. And finally, I duplicate this again, right click on duplicate, and I go to the final chart that I have. All right, I'll delete this in my duplicates and I'll go to my Excel and I'll take the one for the age group. Come back here, click on this chart, copy, Control C. I'll go back to my PowerPoint, paste, not Control V. I did a Control V, but usually you don't want to do that. All right. So I'll go to keep source formatting as usual. Same process. By now, I'm sure you've gotten a hang of it. All right. Same process. You want to add the outline. Okay. So you go to your format, you go to your shape outline, select the dark color, go to the effects. You want it to have a shadow, go to shadow, go to the middle, just to make it pop out a little bit. And then we can decrease the one inside a bit. So we have space for our circles. And I want to use what I've done before, so I don't have to start from scratch. So I go to the previous slide and I'll click to draw a line to select the circle here. And I'll copy this, Control C, go to the last chart and I'll paste Control V. Okay, so I'm going to have one circle right here. Okay, Control D to duplicate. I'll have another circle right here. And I'll duplicate again one more time, Control D. And I'll have another circle right here. Okay, so the three circles, I'm going to have them right in my chart. One is going to change to red, which is the one I want the focus to be on. So let's check the percentages. You have 9.1 for 30 to 45, 9.9, 46, 46 to 59, and 8.0 for 60 and above. So I'll simply go to my chart. That's my presentation, and I want to change what I have. So here I have a 9.1. So let's change 9.1%. Here I have a 9.9, which is where my focus would be on. And then I have 8.0. Okay, so let's change this to red. The concept of anomaly. I'll change this to red. I'll select my circle and I'll go to shape, shape format, shape fill, and I'll change the fill to what? Red. The focus should be here on the red. Add your lines as usual. I'm going to do this very fast, okay? So add your lines, your connectors, add your connectors. Okay. Oops. All right, like I said, always feel free to make changes until you feel you've created something that looks good. All right, add the line here as well. Use the connectors just to connect and the numbers look presentable. Okay, just move this a bit. So you do the same here as well. Go to the straight line. Drop this. Use the connector and connect this. Okay, so we can see that we have from 30 to 30 to 45, 9.1%, 46 to 59, 9.9, 60 plus is 8.0%. Now let's change this, okay? We change what we have here. Middle-aged adults, okay? Let's use the black fonts and we decide on what to change to red eventually, okay? So middle-aged adults who falls within the age group of what? 46 to 59 show the highest increase. Show the highest increase in blood pressure. Okay, so that's the focus. At what? 9.9%. So I can change the middle-aged adults. We can make this red so that the focus is there. Okay. And then we can also change the 9.9, which is the rate at which this has increased. And of course, we can simply type and say the analysis shows that all age groups experienced an increase in blood pressure with the 46 to 59 age group seeing the highest percentage increase at 9.9%. All right, we can write more or we can leave it this way. Now we have something, reasonable that we can show. And finally, you can leave a conclusion. I always advise to leave a conclusion or a recommendation or what your thoughts are based on the analysis you've done. Okay, so I can simply create a new slide. I'll take this out and I'll have a conclusion. I'll just type in here conclusion, okay, or recommendation, depending on what you want to show or what you want to talk about. And you can come in here and type in the analysis clearly shows that, or clearly shows that Red Bull consumption leads to a significant increase in blood pressure across all demographics studied. All right, so you can leave it as something like this. You can add more stuff to it to say you might need to do more analysis to find out, what the impacts could be, or why do men have a higher rate of increase compared to female, and so on and so forth. Let's just come here and add something else and say this findings underscores the importance of monitoring cardiovascular response to energy drinks. Okay, I'm just going to leave it at this. Now, let's try to do a presentation based on this. So looking at what you've done from the Excel sheets to moving this into a presentation, we're going to make a presentation tomorrow to show what the increase could look like, what's the analysis you've done. Okay, so we can also include titles. Like I mentioned earlier, I can include a title here to title the second one to say, this will be called the impact of Red Bull. Okay, impact of Red Bull on blood pressure by what? Gender. Okay, let's change the G to a capital. So we have a header. Each chart, ideally, best practice should have a header. Something like this. Make it bold. We can reduce the font size so it's more subtle and not too bold. Okay. Let's use 12, and let's just center this. You can also do the same. Copy this, take it to slide 3, paste. All right, and impact of Red Bull on blood pressure by age group. Okay. Simple and short. So now you want to make your presentation to the director of medical services, or whatever the case is. It's easy for you to present what you have compared to presenting your Excel. So now I can just simply put this on slideshow, and we can see clearly this is a presentation that looks a lot better. So anybody who sees this, even if you are sending this to your manager and they see this, the overall blood pressure increased by 9% after consuming Red Bull. And it's very clear. You can see on 9% the concept of anomaly. It brings this out and everybody can see this. Okay, the blood pressure before 156 mmHg, after 171 millimeter mercury, percentage increase is 9%. Okay, now men experience higher blood pressure increase at 9.5% compared to women. The fact that you highlighted men and highlighted 9.5 shows you want the focus to be on that. Okay, so while both genders experienced an increase in blood pressure, males showed a slightly higher increase compared to the females. And finally, the middle-aged adults, 46 to 59, showed the highest increase in blood pressure at 9.9%. Okay, and of course, talk about the analysis, and finally, you go to your conclusion or your recommendation, depending on what you've done. And when you make a presentation like this is a precursor to data storytelling, where you tell what has happened from your data from the point of view that clearly shows the analysis you've done, clearly communicated, and everybody can see what happened and why it happened. Is there a recommended font style? It's dependent on the organization you work with. Some organizations would have a font style, Kandara, Georgia, Calibri, it depends. And there is no fixed format for any specific type of presentation. Okay. This is how you translate analysis into presentation using Excel. For other tools, there are so many other ways you can get this done, but this is a fantastic way of you getting it done in Excel. I'm going to move back to my slide, and then we'll continue with the rest of our session in the next about 35 minutes, and then we wrap up. If you've learned something new today from this session, type in a yes into the chat. If you've learned something new, type in a yes into the chat. So let's see those that are following, those that have learned something. And I'll say that at the end of today's session, try to implement everything I've shown you today. Fantastic. User Victor, Dolapo, the ease with pivot table, Jamin, Tamuno, Shegun, fantastic. Now, the question is, people ask this question a lot. I want to become a data analyst. Are there chances of me getting a job? And one of the first things you want to do is look into articles and reports that have been generated to show where the jobs would be in the future. And this is where I always recommend to people that one of the first things you want to do is use the World Economic Forum Future of Jobs reports. As a data analyst, you want to get a job as a data analyst. Will the jobs in data analytics grow or will it decline in the next few years? And the World Economic Forum Future of Jobs report has done this and given a very clear indication to where the jobs would be. At the left-hand side, you have the jobs that will grow. At the right-hand side, you have the jobs that will decline. Okay, so the question now is, would I go into a career path that is declining? I had a session about 2 days ago on Tuesday, and I had a conversation with somebody. He's currently doing a program in product management. And you can see here, as a product manager, your jobs will decline in the next 5 to 10 years. And this is not for any other reason, but this is simply because of the new trends and the new technologies. You have AI, large language models available today that can carry out market research and even show product market fit and so on and so forth. So you have certain job roles that are going to decline, and you don't want to be in that boat or be on that boat when you are trying to transition into a new career path. On the other hand, as a data analyst, you have jobs in a career path that will grow in demand over the next 5 to 10 years. So you see the data analyst role as one of the roles highlighted that will grow. So there's no better place for you to be than in a career path like data analytics. And you'd also see that in the top 5, you have the data analyst role. You also have the business intelligence analyst role. And a lot of people don't know that a data analyst does the job of a business intelligence analyst. Okay, because BI, business intelligence, is simply your understanding of SQL, combining Power BI, which is a BI tool, or Tableau, which is another BI tool, and understanding of data warehousing concepts. And these are all the things you learn as a data analyst. So as a data analyst, you can apply to business intelligence analyst roles, data analyst roles, and so on and so forth. So if you look at the top 5, you'd see that where the jobs are the jobs that are related to the data roles within the tech space. And this is where you want to be. So understanding this, the next question is, can I become a data analyst? What do I need to learn? How do I do what Adesa has just done, or even do a lot more than what we've done today? And the answer is very simple. For us at 10 Analytics, the focus has always been on building analysts that can not just learn the skill, understand Excel, Power BI, but also get the job done. So when you're hired as a data analyst on day 1, you know exactly what to do. And we have a whole lot of people, it always seems impossible until you see people that have done what you're also trying to do. Okay. Stephen, for example, Stephen is a very new, he just got his job, started his job about 2 weeks ago or last week. All right. Stephen moved from a customer service rep role, worked as a customer service representative, and he transitioned into becoming a data analyst after joining our data analytics program. That was sometime early last year. Just a few weeks ago, Stephen also got another job in Glasgow, Scotland, as a data analyst in a different organization. And before he got this second job, he simply told me, "Hi, Adeza, I think I can do a lot more than my current role, and I want to start applying to more job opportunities." And the moment he started doing that and started getting interview requests, we prepared him, walked him through his interviews, and also provided him with a reference to secure the job. We have people like Zainab. Zainab got a job at the beginning of this year in January, working as a data manager with an organization back in Nigeria. You have somebody like Bernard. Bernard is currently in Canada. Bernard got two things. He joined our data analytics program, and we wrote a recommendation for him during his scholarship application. We wrote a recommendation, and Bernard was able to secure a scholarship with his professor in the university. All right, he's currently on a scholarship as a data analyst with one of the universities in Canada. And not just that, so he got the scholarship and also landed a job. So he's on full scholarship in Canada, and he's also working as a data analyst. He joined our data analytics program, and what we did for him was simple. We wrote a compelling recommendation showing why he deserves a scholarship, and we also prepared him for interviews that helped him secure the job as a data analyst. You have somebody like Ikmat. Ikmat moved from a stay-at-home mom who was taking care of her kids for over 2 years, and she decided to move back into the job ecosystem. She joined our data analytics program, and today Ikmat works with the NHS in the UK, full visa sponsorship on a skilled worker visa, working as a data analyst with the NHS. Okay, you have so many professionals. You have Twin, who is also on a full visa sponsorship in the UK. You have Benga, who joined our data analytics program, currently a business data analyst in Poland. You have Tosin, you have Oloa Damilare, and so many other professionals. But I want you to hear from Ikmat, okay? Because you can learn a whole lot from Ikmat's story, Ikmat's journey, and you get to know what Ikmat did to secure this job, full visa sponsorship in the UK, and I'm sure you'll learn one or two things from her as well. All right? So I'm going to share this very quickly, and we'll all get to listen to Ikmat and hear what Ikmat has to say. And then I'll come back to tell you, if you want to make that jump as well, these are the set of skills you must learn: technical plus employability. And then we wrap up our session for today. Okay, so let's listen to Ikmat and let's hear what she has to say.
Dial pad.
Okay, so I'm just going to be sure you can all hear the audio, and then we'll listen to Ikmat. Sit back, relax. It's a 3 minute video. Let's hear what Ikmat has to say.
Hi everyone, my name is Ikmat, and I was with the March cohort in Analytics, and joining Analytics has been the best decision so far. You know, for me, someone coming from a background of full housewife, because I had to stay back home to look after my child for 4 years, and then wanting to break into something new, wanting to go back into the workforce, you know, wanting to place myself in the society for better job opportunities. So it was a lot. And then I'm glad that Analytics came along, and then they presented me with so many opportunities right in front of me, better opportunities. And then I'm glad I took it. And then also the advice of do not sell yourself short, that Effie, it's always say it is very, very valid, because place yourself right, don't sell yourself short. It's a very, very, very valid advice. In analytics, they will hold your hands like a child, through the modules. You have the opportunity to go back and study. You have the opportunity to go back and practice. You have the opportunity to ask questions. You have people you can always go back to, even outside of class hours. It's the most amazing experience so far, really. And then another thing is the interview prep, guys. That is another very important thing. I did my interview prep with Mr. Mohammed, and it is the best decision ever, because it was like he saw into the future. He knew what was going to be asked. And I'm glad that I wrote down all the things he mentioned. I went back to practice, and then when it was time for the interview, it was like everything he was mentioning, everything he mentioned, it was just, they kept on. And then when I was answering those questions, I was so confident, because I already practiced. I did an Excel test, I did a maths test, and then they were really impressed. And another thing is, guys, it may not come as fast as you expect. Definitely, you are going to get some no's, and then you may begin to think you're not good enough. You are good enough, yes. The no's will come, but always take it as a basis for learning and development, because after every interview where I got a no, I always make sure I get a personal feedback. So I work on those feedbacks for my next interviews. And yes, it worked. It really worked for me, because I got my first job 3 months into the program, my first job. But I couldn't take up the job because I was a student, and I was only eligible to work 20 hours. So I couldn't take up the job. 3 months later, I got 2 jobs with full visa sponsorship. And guys, all the other no's before the 2 jobs prepared me for the yeses I got. So yes, the no's will come, but do not give up, because you always have analytics to go back to. They are the best, and the best thing that ever happened to me. And then yes, and they are the most affordable one I've come across so far, and that's a very good advantage. So yes, analytics for the win.
Okay, so that's Ikmat. You can see Ikmat right here, and that's Ikmat's story. Very compelling, fantastic lady. And today she does something she calls data for good, working with the NHS to use data to solve amazing problems. And so many other professionals. I'm not going to bore you with all the testimonials, okay? You have the links to all these amazing people. Listen to them, and you get to see what they've been able to do and how they've been able to transition. This is Muhyiddin, for example, working from Ibadan, Nigeria, working for a company in the UK, working remotely, earning in pounds, spending in naira, and so on and so forth. And of course, you have the link to the full testimonial list. So you get to listen to all the people that have created videos, all the people that have had amazing sessions, they've gotten jobs, and you get to learn and hear from them as well. So I've kept the link for you. You get the slide at the end of today's session, and you can interact and watch all those videos available on YouTube. So the question everybody would ask is, who is a data analyst? And what do I do as a data analyst? Every single thing I've done today, from the beginning up until when we created our presentation, is what the data analyst will do. The data analyst answers 2 key questions in any organization. All right. The first question the data analyst will try to answer is what happened? And the second question is, why did it happen? Companies, organizations generate data from different sources. The very first thing you want to do is get that data as a data analyst, analyze the data, and come up with insights. Now, we had the data at the beginning. We got it from the web. It meant nothing. We couldn't really tell anything from the data we got until we used the pivot table and we started to see patterns. We started to see insights. There was an increase between the male and the female. These were the differences, the different age groups, the different gender, and of course, the blood pressure before and the blood pressure after. You would always find out what happened. And when you ask the question, what happened, and you attempt to answer that question as a data analyst, you are carrying out something we call descriptive analytics. And this is simply showing what happened in that organization. Q1 2021, we made a revenue of 2 billion. Q2 2024, we made a revenue of 5 billion. From 2 billion to 5 billion, why do we have that increase? Okay, so what happened is you've analyzed the data and you've seen that there's an increase between Q1 and Q2. That is what happened. When you dive deeper to find out why do we have that increase, you are going into another realm of data analytics called what? Diagnostic analytics, finding out why what happened. So when you have that increase, if, for example, we decide to dive deeper into the data to find out why do men have an increased rate of blood pressure compared to the women, that's going into diagnostic analytics. So the data analyst would always want to know what happened and why did it happen, using data as a basis to make the decision. All right. So a data analyst does descriptive and diagnostic analytics in any organization, and they always aim to answer what happened and why it happened. That's your role as a data analyst. Your role is to answer questions for the company, telling them what happened and why it happened. And for you to tell any organization what happened and why it happened from a data-driven perspective, you must have certain set of skills. Number one is problem solving. You must know if you have the data to solve a problem. You must know the type of techniques to deploy to solve problems. You must also know if you can break problems into multiple parts, get to the root cause of a problem, and so on and so forth. All of that you learn in the problem-solving class. Learn the problem-solving skill, and once you know that, you move into Excel. You've seen what we did with Excel today. That is scratching the surface of what Excel can do. And Excel gives you that foundation. It gives you that background into anything data. So you know how to use Excel to summarize your data, get your data, create dashboards, create visualizations, and so on and so forth. You must also dive and understand SQL, dive into SQL, structured query language. And this is the language for what? Databases. So when I talked about a data analyst getting a job as a business intelligence analyst, this is where it starts from. SQL is the language you use to interact with databases, data warehouses. You create tables, you create the database, you create the schemas, and so on and so forth. Organizations would not have their data in Excel files, just like we downloaded from the web. They would have their data where? In a database. That's a structured environment to store data for easy access. So how do you get access to that data? That's where you need to have a good understanding of SQL. And then you move into Power BI for business intelligence. So when you combine SQL, you combine Power BI and Tableau for business intelligence, this gives you access into BI roles, business intelligence analyst roles. Okay, from there you move into data storytelling. I gave you just a sneak peek into what data storytelling is all about. We looked at two major concepts today, the concept of less is more and the concept of what? Anomaly. There are so many concepts that gives you a very clear direction of how to tell your story based on the analysis you've carried out. So you must know how to communicate your findings to people who have no experience or no knowledge of the type of tools that you can use. You'd learn how to communicate those stories, learning data storytelling. And of course, you learn AI for data analytics. How can you use ChatGPT to do a lot of the things we've done today? How can you leverage ChatGPT prompt engineering to help you make your work a lot faster and a lot better? And I tell people today, you can't be a data analyst without the understanding of ChatGPT, especially for prompts engineering. Very, very important. And finally, you learn Microsoft Fabric. And this is a platform recently launched by Microsoft that warehouses so many analytics materials. You can create Power BI dashboards in Microsoft Fabric. You can write SQL queries in Microsoft Fabric. You can build data warehouses and data lakes in Microsoft Fabric. So it's an all-in-one platform that organizations are deploying today. So having the skill gives you an advantage over anybody out there. All right. So if you want to become a data analyst, these are the set of skills you must start to look at to make you get that jump. But learning the skill is not enough. And I'll show you what you need to add to these skills to make you competitive. Understanding the skill is a given. Any organization you would apply to would expect that you have skills from number 1 to number 8. And how long does it take you to learn this? For 4 months. 3 months project-based classes and 1 month internship. And I'll tell you where the project-based classes and the internship now becomes very, very important. So you work in class, you work on projects that are real-world projects that I have worked on and other industry professionals have also worked on. You work on those type of projects for 3 months in class, and then you have 1 month for your internship. All right. Your classes are on Saturdays. Your live classes are on Saturdays. So on Saturday, you have a class, depending on where you are. You're in the UK, you're in Nigeria, similar time zones, somewhere in Europe. You have a class that fits your time zone, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. If you're in Canada, you're in the US, North America, similar time zone, you have another class that fits your time zone, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. All right. So you could be in Nigeria, you could be in the UK, for example, and the morning class, maybe you are busy in the mornings, but when you are free is later in the evening. You can join the class for the US and Canada guys, which would be at 6 p.m. your time in the evening, 6 to 9. So you have a flexible way of learning, flexible. You can move into the morning class, the evening class, depending on your schedule. And of course, on Sundays, you don't have a live class. You have a self-paced watch me do it class. So at your own convenience on Sundays, you have the LMS, you get onboarded on our LMS, and you have opportunity to watch your videos, practice what you see in the videos ahead of your next live class on Saturday when you get to work on projects. So for those who are slow learners, what we've seen over time is the blended learning approach helps them a whole lot to catch up with certain areas where they have challenges and so on and so forth. And I'll double down on that and explain how the program has been designed with the beginner in mind. So if you're a beginner, you've never done anything data before, this is the best place for you to be. All right. Now that you know that these are the skills, take a screenshot. So if anybody asks, as a data analyst, what do I need to learn? You know exactly what you need to do. And data analysts are very strategic in any organization. And I tell people, one of the major reasons why you see the data analyst role very high in demand across every region is because of one major fact, which is 90% of the data we have today was generated within the last 5 to 6 years. So organizations have a ton of data at their disposal, but they don't know what to do with it. They can't make sense of the data to take decisions to grow the business. So you have 90% of the entire data that exists in the world generated in the last 5 to 6 years. So data analysts, data scientists, anybody who can manage data, analyze data, make sense of data becomes very high in demand. And data analysts would be the ones to let you know what happened and why it happened, so you can make informed decisions in your organization. All right. And finally, the salaries are also very good when it comes to getting into the data analyst role. In the UK is within 40,000 to 52,000 pounds per annum. In Canada, between 62 to 85,000 Canadian dollars, and in the US at around 82 to 94,000 US dollars. So you get to be, on a career path with progression, and you can see exactly where you're going, where you're headed, and you can always get into better roles as the time goes by doing something we call job hopping. But that's another conversation for another day. Now, one of the things you also get, like I mentioned, is the internship. And this gives you the opportunity to add projects to your portfolio. So once you've learned the technical skills, okay, the tech skills as a data analyst, you must build a portfolio. Very, very important, because how do you convince me that you have the skills to do the job? Can you show me what you've done before? That's the question any recruiter or potential employer would like to see from you, or that's the question they would like to ask. All right, show me what you've done. Can I see your work? So the link to your portfolio must always be on your profile. And I always love to showcase this to you. And I'll show you this very quickly, what a portfolio looks like. And this is the portfolio of Victoria, who joined our program as a data analyst. And for anybody in any of the programs, be it the data analytics program, the business analysis, you will build a portfolio. So this is Victoria's portfolio, and it shows some of the projects she has worked on across different areas. This was an analysis she did on the deep care hospital emergency room visits. Okay, and this is a dashboard she built and were housed on Tableau. So if you click on the link, it takes you to her Tableau public page, and you'd see the ER hospital analysis by Victoria, and you can see the dashboard she's built. Now, the dashboard is also interactive, meaning that if I deselect the quarter, I want to see just Q1. I don't want to see Q1 to Q4. If I deselect all and I select Q1, you can see everything is blank because I've deselected all. If I click on Q1, I can see the emergency room visits analysis for only Q1. I can add Q2, and you'd see it will change to show Q1 and Q2. Every recruiter would want to see that you have these skills, and they know that when you get into the organization, you can do exactly the same thing that you have built before. Data analytics is a heavily skill-based area. You don't get into data analytics with a lot of talking. You get into data analytics with a lot of what? Workings. You must show your workings. You must show proof of your workings. So less of talking and more of workings. Okay. So you'd see a lot of the things that Victoria has done. Redux airline flight analysis with Excel, Express Tech food delivery using Tableau. And if you click on the link, it takes you to another dashboard again, that she's built to show a food delivery business and how they've been able to handle their customers, the most preferred meal, the preference of meals by their customers, and so on and so forth. And this is what shows that you have the skills. And once you are able to do this, you have the technical skills. Remember, it's always a combination of two major skills to get you the job. Like I mentioned earlier, your portfolio shows that you have the technical skills. So you must have the technical skills. T plus the E. This gets you the job. But what is E? T is for technical. Okay, so you have the technical skills. E is for what? Employability. You can't get a job with only one. If you're the best person using Excel, you're the best in Excel in the world, you're not likely going to get that job better than somebody who knows how to communicate a lot better than you. All right? Better than somebody who can sell him or herself during an interview. And that's why employability skills becomes very, very important. Okay? So this is what separates you. And we also recognize that fact. And this is what has made Tenalytics very successful in terms of helping people make that jump from the classroom to getting their first jobs. And it's across 3 levels. The first level, you have a CV review session, which is where we work with you to help you optimize your CV. Now, if you have a CV that doesn't meet the required, format, we show you how to tailor your CV to job requirements using a particular CV format called the Wharton CV format. Why is the Wharton CV format very important? When it comes to ATS, this is where you get the best format that does best with the ATS, the Applicant Tracking System, because organizations, HR would not look at your CV manually. The first thing first is the ATS, your CV will be passed through the ATS system, and it will match the keywords from the job requirements to the keywords on your CV. If they don't match, your CV is weeded out immediately, filtered out. So what's the best CV format that does well with the ATS? And that's the Wharton CV format. We show you how to tailor your CV. We show you how to structure your CV to get the best results when it comes to applications. If you're that person that does easy apply on LinkedIn or easy apply on read.co.uk, that's one of the first things we stop you from doing because you don't get positive results from that. All right. Once you have a good CV, the CV gets you into the room. The CV does not get you the job. It gets you into the room. Now, your LinkedIn plays another major role in you eventually securing the job, because once your CV has been selected, they want to know a little bit more about you. Do you have an online persona? What is your online persona? What does it say about you? Do you post things on data analytics that shows that you don't just have the skill on paper, but you have a persona on LinkedIn that also matches the CV? So we help you optimize your LinkedIn profile if you have one. And if you don't have one, we show you how to build one. We teach you how to build one. Upwork optimization. And this is where, for those who want to work on freelance work opportunities, we show you, if you have an Upwork profile, we help you optimize. If you don't have one, we build one for you. Navigating the job market, which is how to apply to jobs, where to apply to jobs based on your specific region and locations. What are the things you need to look out for when applying to jobs? Do you know that as a data analyst, you can get a job as a business intelligence analyst? You can get a job as an SQL analyst. You can get a job as a database analyst. Do you know all these things? If you don't, you'd apply to just one type of job role, which is a data analyst job role, and you miss out on so many more opportunities. So this is where we show you practically where to apply, how to apply, what roles to apply to, and so on and so forth. Once your CV gets you into the room, it's now time for you to shine. And this is where you sell yourself during interviews, saying the right things, knowing how to answer competency-based questions, which carries the highest marks during interviews. A lot of people don't know this. Nobody cares about your education. Nobody cares about your certificate. What they care about is you doing two things. Number one, selling yourself in a compelling manner. Okay, and what does selling yourself means? Your CV gets you into the room. Your likability gets you the job. Likability. How well they like you in that interview, because they're going to be working with you. So they want to be sure that they like you. They want to be sure that you're somebody who can speak to them. You're somebody who, jokes, who can joke, have small talk. All right. You go to an interview in the UK, you don't just want to open up and start answering questions. No, you want to talk a little bit. Oh, how's the weather today? Today seemed a little bit sunny. I love the sun after so many, days of winter. The winter this year was very brutal. You have small talk before you eventually get in. Oh, I love to play football. How about you? What sports do you like to get involved in, and so on? And you talk, you laugh, you smile, and then before you get down into business. So likability is very, very important. Now, how do you also answer questions that are competency-based using the STAR technique? When you're asked questions like, tell me about a time you were on a project that involved the use of Power BI and you had to work with a large data set. How did you work with a large data set using Power BI? This is not a question that you'd have read somewhere or watched somewhere. It's a question that requires you to have done that particular job for you to tell them what you did. Tell me about a time you were involved on a complex project that involved a huge amount of data sets and you used Power BI to do your analysis. How were you able to manage the large data with Power BI? All right, how do you answer those questions? By first of all, talking about the situation. We talk about the task that was involved, your actions. What actions did you take to work with a large data set like that? Did you connect Power BI to the database? How did you get your data? Did you import or did you use the direct query? What exactly did you do? And finally, when you completed that, what were the results, or what was the results you got from that analysis? Understanding the STAR technique is one of the major skills you need in an interview to get a job, because this helps you constructively answer competency-based questions. And competency-based questions carries the highest mark, because your competence is a combination of your skills and experience. So the better you answer the competency-based questions, the more they know that you have both the skills and experience to get the job done. All right. And of course, you eventually get that offer. You need a recommendation letter. We write the most compelling recommendation letters for you. Level 2 is where you have your mentorship sessions and your on-the-job support. And of course, this year, 2024, our promise to you is a guaranteed job interview 1 month after you complete your training with us. The jobs you apply to, you will get an interview a minimum of a month after you complete your training with us. And that's our promise to you for those joining any of our programs. The next cohort starts on the 8th of June, next week, Saturday. And we have an amazing discount for those of you who would be willing to join the program that will start on the 8th of June. And the discount is absolutely phenomenal. It's a 20% discount right off the bat. For those paying in dollars, instead of paying the full amount of $750 or £625 or 730 euros or 1125 Canadian dollars, or 900,000 naira, you get to pay 20% off that amount. And you also have the opportunity to make your payments in 2 installments. Instead of paying $600, you get to pay $400 to get you into the class. And this is where you receive a welcome kit that contains all the things you need for the program: how to install Excel, your Power BI, your SQL, your Tableau. You have all those things installed and you're ready to go before the class commences. And 1 month into the program, you get to pay the balance of $200. And you get paid in pounds. Instead of paying $625, you get to pay just $500. You pay £350 to get into the class and $150 a month. After the program commences, you pay the second installment. So taking advantage of the discount provides you with 2 fantastic opportunities: a 20% off and the ability to make payments in 2 installments. All right. You're paying in euros, you get to pay 400 to get into class and 180 a month after. Canadian dollars, 600 to get into class and 300 a month after. And if you're paying in naira, 500,000 naira. This gets you into the class, it gets you registered. You get all the things you need to get started. And 1 month after you started, you get to pay the balance of 220,000 naira. And how do you make payments? Very straightforward. I'll walk you through that very quickly. My colleagues will share that with you. And once I walk you through how to make payments, we come back, we take questions for another 10 to 15 minutes, and then we wrap up our session for today. And all you have to do is click on this link or scan the QR code that you have on my slide. And if I click on this link, it takes me into the Main Stack Enrollment Center. And here you can make payments in multiple options. You have multiple options to make payments. One of the first things you want to follow us across all our social media, from Instagram to X to LinkedIn to Facebook and so on and so forth. If you want to chat with any of us, all you have to do is come in here and click on what? Chat with Tenalytics. And you also have access to all the program brochures. You want to look at the data analytics brochure, the business analysis brochure, all the brochures, you have access to them by simply clicking on this link. And of course, You can make payments by doing a direct transfer to any of the account details that you have in pounds, in euros, in dollars, Canadian dollars, and of course, in Naira. Or you can also pay with your card, making payments using your credit or debit card, making your payments, clicking on the link to data analytics. And once you click on the link, it takes you into the data analytics page. And let's take, for example, I want to make my payments in pounds. The first installment is what? 350. And I want to pay that first installment to secure my slots. I'll simply do what? Enter 350 in here, 350, and then click on reserve a seat. Okay, the moment you click on reserve a seat, all you have to do, enter your full name. Okay, there's a Suleiman. Enter your email. All right. Enter your email. Make sure that you enter your correct email, enter your phone number, and then click on pay with card. Now, this would, once you make payments, enter your card details and make payments, you receive an automated receipt into your email. The email would have a receipt for payment and also a link for you to register. All right. And for those of you who do a direct transfer, all you have to do after doing a direct transfer is take a screenshot of the payment and then go to where you have upload your receipts to upload your proof of payment. Okay. And once you click on upload your receipts, it takes you into a form that looks like this. All right. You fill all your details, your email, fill all the details. And once you do that, if you, for some people, they want to start in the month of July. We have a cohort starting on the 8th of June. Perhaps your June is already busy. You have so many commitments and you want to defer to start in July, but taking advantage of the discount today, yes, you can do that. While filling the form, you see the option that says, when do you want to start? June or July, and you get to make that decision. All right. The beautiful thing is you would have taken advantage of the discounts, and at the same time, you would also have the opportunity to start at a later date. Okay. Registration closes on the 4th of June, on Tuesday, the 4th of June. So for those of you who would love to be a part of the program to get your journey started, you want to ensure that you make your payments between now and the 3rd of June to be a part of this amazing program. Will the offer be available in July? The direct answer to that is no. It won't be available in July. It's a guarantee from me that it won't be available in July. If you want the same offer, all you have to do is take advantage of the discounts in the month of May for the cohort that will start in June. So if you make payments between now and the 4th of June, you'll secure your slots. Even if you want to start in July, in August or September, as the case might be. We have new cohorts that will start from now to the end of the month, end of the year, I beg your pardon. So I'm going to take questions before we wrap up our session today. So if you have questions, please drop it in the chat, or you can raise your hand. I'll call you up to speak and I'll take your questions. Why is Canada relatively higher? Is the rates of the exchange rates. Okay, and you can make payments in any currency that you want, Elizabeth. You have about 5 different currencies. You can pay in dollars, you can pay in pounds, in euros, Canadian dollars, or even in Naira, depending on the option that you prefer, based on your preference. Okay, so there are no restrictions at all. Can I pay 300 CAD installment? No, you can't, Elizabeth. The first installment you are paying in Canadian is 600 Canadian dollars. Okay, you could have done this at the beginning of the month. If you joined, maybe at the beginning of May, you could have made 300. So when it's closer to when the class would start, you can then pay the other 300 to make 600. But then you have the class starting on Saturday, the 8th of June. The only way you can pay 300, Elizabeth, is if you make the 300 payments and you balance up the other 300 on or before the 4th of June. Okay, you pay the 300 and balance on or before the 4th of June, then yes, you can do that. But to pay 300 to start the class, you won't be able to get that done. I don't know if that answers your question, Elizabeth. Can I pay into these accounts? Absolutely. That's the same account. Jameen is asking, is the Wema Bank account. All you have to do is, if you go to the enrollment center, you will see the account details there. Okay, so the account's name is Mainstar Analytics Payment Center, 9311 477 493, and it's a Wema Bank account. Will the offer, okay, I think I've answered that already. I'm just checking the chat for more questions before we call it a day. I'm checking for more questions. So please drop your questions if you have questions. How does the internship work? Can we add it to our CV? Absolutely. So let me show you what the internship looks like very quickly. What about Ghanaian CV? So Richard, all you have to do is click on the link and it will show you the option in your currency and you can make payments. You know, if you're in Ghana, we have a lot of Ghanaians, Kenyans in our programs, and that's how they get to make payments. So click on the link, okay, and you will get your preferred currency. So let me show you what the internship looks like and what the classes even looks like at the same time. Okay, so this is what the LMS, let's go to data analytics. All right, so once you make payments, you get registered, you get onboarded to the LMS, okay? And if I go to data analytics, click on continue learning, you have access to all the, like I mentioned, the watch me do it videos, which are the videos you get to watch at your own pace. You have them available in the LMS. And these are the videos you watch every Sundays. So every Sundays you come in here, you watch your very first video, Introduction to Excel, an overview of Excel for data analytics. And if I play this, you'd see the class starting. The class is taken by Femena, the co-founder of Analytics, and you get to learn amazing concepts into Excel. So this is what the LMS looks like. You have all your videos right here, okay? And you can watch them at your convenience and practice all the things you see as the class goes on. So this is for your Sunday classes. Okay, this is for your Sunday classes. You can see Femena teaching Excel. What is a cell? What is a colon? What is a row? And so on and so forth. Now, your live sessions are on Saturdays. Your live sessions are on Saturdays. And let's go to one of the classrooms. So this is the platform for the live classes. A live class is where you are in a session with a real facilitator like myself, and we are interacting. You can ask questions. I can show you what I've done, and we solve problems together. Okay, so for this particular class, problem solving, you join your class, you go to the login details, you join the class for that day. And if for any reason you miss this class, you have access to the class recording. You come to the class recording and you can watch every single thing that happened in class if you missed this class. Okay, so you see the class recording, showing exactly what happened in class, what did we teach, types of data, what is data, and so on and so forth. All right, so this is what your live class would look like. You have assignments, the 5 whys assignments. You get to do that on day 1. You submit your assignments, and then we have something we call the drop-in session. So drop-in is meant for those who are a bit slow in terms of catching up, number 1. For those that missed the class on Saturday and they need somebody to bring them up to speed, they join the drop-in session so they can get themselves up to speed ahead of the next class the following Saturday. So it's more like a catch-up class or a make-up class, if you will. All right, you have your sit and start approach for your interview prep. How do you use the sit approach to introduce yourself? Talking about your skills, your experience, your achievements, and your type of person. And you have your star approach for competency-based interviews. It's a live session where you'll be taught how to use these two constructive approach to answering questions. If you ever miss any live class, like I mentioned, there's always a class recording. So you can come back, watch the recording, and you have full access to what happened in class, okay? And then you join your first Excel live class, all right? You have another drop-in session, interview simulation, your CV review, and then you have another live Excel class. This is the class that started this May, and you see that the 2405, the 5th May 2024. And of course, you have your important materials. This is where you have applied to a job, you've done the interview, you've gotten an offer, and then you need a reference. You reach out to us, we provide you with a reference based on the job you've applied to, okay? Everybody gets to become a part of a group so that you work together in groups to solve problems. You learn collaborative skills, cross-functional skills as a data analyst. You have your CV templates, which shows you the best CV formats. All you have to do is download this template after you've completed your CV review session, and then you can tweak to the job you're applying to. And of course, you have your interview prep. If you have an interview, all you have to do is come in here, click on the link. It takes you to where you can book an interview, select the dates. Sorry, if I click on this, I think I'm not logged in currently. Okay, you can pick the dates that is available, select a date. For example, a date is available on the 6th of June. I select the time that's preferable, 2 p.m. Click on next. I enter my name, I enter my email, and I enter the job details, and somebody would come walk me through how to prepare for that particular interview. Okay, now let me show you what the internship looks like for the person who asked the question. I just needed to show you the platform first of all, and then we go to the internship. Now, the internship is where you build your real world projects, end-to-end projects. Your classes are projects where you work on one project for a specific area, another project for a specific area, and so on. Your internship brings everything together. All right, you're going to work using Excel, Power BI, SQL on the same project. Okay, so let's go to the DA May internship. So for these guys, they started their internship this May. So let's go and see what they've done so far. All right, so you have a couple of tasks that you carry out during your internship, and you'd work on 4 solid projects. Okay, and let's go to the project overview. So these are 4 projects. One is on market segmentation. Another one is on risk management, operational efficiency, customer lifetime value. I'll play the one on customer lifetime value because it's a bit, the intro is a bit short for 2 minutes, and let's see, and let's listen. Let's listen to what this project is all about. Okay, so this is one of your internship related projects where you would work together with other team members to determine the customer lifetime value of an organization called Delta Retail. Okay, so sit back. I'll play this for the next 2 minutes, and then you get to see what the project is all about.
Welcome to Delta Retail. We are excited to have you join our team for this pivotal project. Delta Retail is a prominent retail chain offering a diverse array of products including electronics, clothing, home goods, and groceries. Committed to delivering exceptional value and service, we strive to meet and exceed the expectations of our customers. Delta Retail faces a crucial challenge in understanding the long-term value of its customers. Although we possess a wealth of historical transaction data, we lack a systematic approach to analyze this data and calculate the customer lifetime value, CLV. The absence of CLV analysis limits our ability to prioritize marketing efforts and allocate resources effectively. The following are the objectives of this project. 1. Calculate customer lifetime value, CLV. Our primary objective is to leverage data analysis techniques to calculate the lifetime value of our customers based on their historical purchasing behavior. 2. Predict future spending patterns. By analyzing past transaction data, we aim to predict future spending patterns of our customers to estimate their lifetime value accurately. 3. Optimize marketing efforts. The insights gained from CLV analysis will enable us to prioritize our marketing efforts and allocate resources effectively to maximize customer value. Here are the tasks to be performed. 1. Data collection. Gather historical transaction data, including customer purchases, dates of transactions, and purchase amounts. 2. Data cleaning. Clean and preprocess the data to handle inconsistencies and outliers, ensuring data quality for analysis. 3. Exploratory data analysis, EDA. Analyze the data to identify patterns and trends in customer purchasing behavior. 4. CLV calculation. Utilize statistical models to calculate the lifetime value of each customer based on their historical purchasing behavior. 6. Forecast. Forecast future spending patterns of customers and estimate their lifetime value. 7. Marketing strategy development. Based on CLV insights, develop personalized marketing strategies to target high-value customers and maximize customer lifetime value. At the conclusion of this project, you will compile your findings and recommendations into a comprehensive slide presentation to be presented to stakeholders. By successfully completing this project, we aim to gain valuable insights into the lifetime value of our customers, optimize our marketing efforts, and drive business growth at Delta Retail. Welcome aboard, and let's work together to make this project a success.
Okay, so this is giving you an overview of one of the projects. Now, the people currently doing their internship, they've done their week 1. Okay, so you see the week 1, you have your task materials, and once you complete a particular task, you have a line manager, because we simulate what the real world work experience would look like for you as a data analyst. So you have this task, and every week you make a presentation, you show your findings. If you have specific challenges, you have somebody to walk you through and show you exactly what to do. The projects are proprietary projects. They're not projects you'd find anywhere in this world. These are experiences of myself over the last 10 years working as a data analyst, the co-founder, Ifemena, and other industry experts. So you get the opportunity to work on real projects for real companies that exist. The only difference is the name of the companies have been changed. Part of the data has also been changed, so you cannot directly relate any part of the data to any organization for data privacy issues. All right. So you have your week 1 task completed. You submit your task. You have weekly meetings. You don't work alone during your internship. You work in groups, and then you get to make presentations based on what you have been able to find. All right. If you want to see a real presentation of any of the data analytics projects, if you go on LinkedIn, you'll see, I think one was posted a few weeks ago, if I'm correct. If you go on LinkedIn, search Tenalytics, okay? Let me see if I can find one that was posted. I know I saw one recently, and you'd see what people have done and what they've been able to build. Let me see if I can find that, and I'll just copy the link and share with you. Okay, I'm not sure it's here, but let me search the Tenalytics page. So if you go online, go to LinkedIn, search Tenalytics. All right, it takes you to the Tenalytics page. Okay, it takes you to the Tenalytics page. I'm going to click on View Page to take me there. All right, because I'm an admin, you'd see it a bit differently. Let me click on View as a Member, so you'd see exactly what you would also see when you get there. Okay, yeah, and if you just go through the posts we've made in the last few weeks, you will come across one of the major internships that's happened over the last few months. All right. Yes, so this is one of them. Okay, let me click on this. It takes me to that post, and I'll copy the link and share with you for the amazing, for the lady that asked the other time. So this is Serenity Retail Market Segmentation Analysis. And this was presented by a team doing the internship called Team Brainiac. You can see the name of the team members. They were tagged here by their team members. And if I go back to that project I showed you earlier, you'd see that one of the projects is market segmentation for Serenity Retail. So at the end of the day, what do you do with these projects? These are the end-to-end projects that you add to your portfolio. I showed you somebody's portfolio earlier. So for somebody like Victoria that builds her own portfolio, you add these projects to your portfolio. And why is a portfolio important? It's important because it is your proof of work and proof of experience that you have the skills to actually get the work done. Okay, so I'm going to, let me see if I can copy the link of this, and I'll just share that in the chat. Okay, for those who would like to go in there and have an amazing time watching that particular video. All right, so let me see if we have more questions before we wrap up. Is the interview prep session, interview prep, CV review, LinkedIn optimization, everything that comes with the training is a part of the fee. So once you join the program, it doesn't matter the program you join, any program you join at Analytics comes with both the technical skills and the employability skills. Okay, you don't pay for anything extra afterwards. I hope I answered that question. Can this Excel Analytics work on Apple laptops? Absolutely. You have Excel for Mac. It's just slightly different in terms of some commands here and there. But yes, you have Excel for Mac. If there will be no offer on July, will the amount be broken down into installments? Kimani, no, we usually don't take installment. If it's a full payment, it's a one-off payment. If you are taking advantage of the discounts, that's when you also have the opportunity to make payments in installments. How do we register for the July cohort? Very simple, iPhone. All you have to do, once you've made payments, okay, once you've made payments, and if you've made payments with a credit or debit card, you have an automated email. And from that email, you have a link for you to register, all right? If you've made payments by doing a direct transfer, all you have to do is come back to the enrollment center. If you've done a direct transfer and you've taken a screenshot, come back to the enrollment center and click on upload your receipts. It takes you into this form. And while filling the form, you enter your email, click on next, you enter your detail, what type of payments, first, or is it an initial payment, full payment? You know, is it a top-up re-enrollment fee? If it's an initial payment, your first installment, you click on that, click on next. Okay, click on next. I just want to take you to what you need to do and where you need to select. Click on next, next, next. Okay, next. Okay, and for some of you, this is the data analytics masterclass. But if you want us to speak with you, maybe you're not sure if to go for the data analytics or data science, when filling the form, all you need to do is select, I need to speak with a professional. Okay, and once you select this, we're going to arrange a session with you on Tuesday or Wednesday where we help you answer the critical questions to help you untangle that confusion so you can make a decision. If you click on next here, so this is where you select, all right? When do you want to start? Okay, so you can select you want to start on the 8th of June, which is the very next cohort, or 6th of July, or 3rd of August, or 7th of September. And like I mentioned earlier, the advantage is you'll be taking advantage of the current discounts that exist. So if you want to start on the 6th of July, select that, and we make that arrangement for you after you finish the form and submit. Okay, I hope I answered that question too. Let me see. Is there a similar thing to today's session for business analysis I enjoyed today and would like to see? We've done that from the beginning of this month. Okay, so for the June cohorts, we started from the beginning of May, almost every week, not almost, every week and every weekend, we've had sessions. I know there is one currently ongoing. Okay, so what you want to do for the gentleman who asked that question, what you want to do is follow us. Yeah, you must have missed it, Amara. So Amara, what you want to do is follow us across all our platforms. All right, follow us on LinkedIn, follow us on YouTube, and so on. So on LinkedIn, for example, if I go to the Tenalytics page and I go to posts, let's see view as member, you'd see that we had posted. Same on Instagram and same across all our platforms. Okay, same across. Let's show all posts and see. And I'm sure we'll find it somewhere there. Let me see. Okay, so this is a cybersecurity masterclass, similar to what we've done. This would hold tomorrow, 31st of May. This is the session we are currently having today, using data to unveil the impact of energy drinks on blood pressure. That's myself, and we are currently in today's session, right? There's a building your first ETL pipeline, scraping data from the web. Okay, this is the session that is holding today, not the business analysis. Yesterday, we had a session with some of our participants on how I secured a job after training with Tenalytics. Okay, let me see. I think I'll confirm, but what you want to do, if you want to join a business analysis session, follow us. Okay, just follow us. Okay, Amara said she was there yesterday. Fantastic. So just follow us and you'll see all the amazing sessions we have almost every weekend and every day of the week. We have free sessions like this. Okay. So this is how to write user stories as a business analyst and other skills required to launch your business analysis career. This held on the 23rd of May. Now, what you want to do is also, if you go to our LinkedIn, I beg your pardon, YouTube, go to the Tenalytics YouTube page. All the sessions that held over the last 4 years, you have them on YouTube. Okay, so go to YouTube for the session. Amara said she joined the session yesterday. This is the video. Okay, you can watch it here. Today's video would also be uploaded on YouTube. So subscribe to our YouTube channel. Okay, this was a session I also held on Sunday. UK, Canada, UK pathways, US, Canada, UK pathways for tech talents. So you have so many things you can get here, all right? And is our certificates recognized? Absolutely, Elizabeth. We are registered in Canada as a corporation, and the way you tell if the value you get from any organization is from the testimonials of people that have gotten jobs as well. So what you need to do, Elizabeth, is follow us on YouTube, come to the testimonials, and listen to all the amazing professionals who have been able to get jobs within the space. All right. So Amara said she has gone on YouTube, and yeah, it was amazing. Okay, absolutely. I agree with you. You get to listen to amazing professionals, and you get to hear how they made their transition story, and you can learn from them as well. Somebody like Damilare, who got a job last month, working as a sustainability data analyst with an organization in the UK. You have, click on testimonial and it takes you to all the amazing people, about almost 100 of them, videos we have there for you. And you also have access to videos for the last 4 years. You can learn a whole lot from here without even joining a live class. But you want to get the whole package, preparing you for interviews, working on your CV, your LinkedIn, and getting you into that job. You're currently in Canada, you're in the UK, you're in the US, and you're struggling to land a job, especially within the tech ecosystem. This is the best place for you to be. All right? Send this message to a friend, send to a colleague, send to a family member, send to somebody you think can benefit from this session. And we'll be very happy to get you started along this journey, getting you into tech. Okay, let me see. Will there always be the data? Would you always get data? No, Kaggle is just somewhere for you to get data to practice, work on projects, and so on. In the real world, you get to work on data from a real organization. Our training is not based on Kaggle. I use Kaggle so that Abimbola, at the end of today's session, you can easily go to Kaggle and get that data too and practice what I've shown you today. But in the real training, you work on data sets that are related to organizations that we have worked with in the past, tweaked it, of course, due to data privacy. So you're working on projects that are relevant to helping you get the job when you're done with the program, okay? And there are so many platforms to get data from, not just Kaggle. Kaggle is just one out of so many that you can get data from. All right, so I think we'll be calling it a day right at this point. And I want to say a big thank you for joining us today, and practice all what I've shown you. Do the same thing and see if you can get it done, and share the message with somebody. We'll be looking forward to starting with you on the 8th of June or July, depending on when you'll be joining us. I hope you had an amazing time today. I've had an amazing time myself, and I hope we get to meet in class when you've registered. All right, so cheers, everybody. Have an amazing time ahead of you. Cheers.